In this week's episode of Studio Inter, we'll be discussing the match against Spal as well as the draw against Eintracht Frankfurt. We'll be previewing the return leg in the Europa League against Eintracht and the derby della Madonnina. This week's Moggi, Moratti, Frog and Inter Legends and much more. Everything here on Studio Inter, on SempreInter.
Ecco Perisic, 1 contro 1, gioco di gambe, guadagna il fondo, il cross, Icardi, e gol! Maurito il Mamba!
Ci sono i blocchi nell'area di rigore, arriva la palla, la prende Messino! La prende Messino! Che segna solo contro le romane, segna il gol del 3-2!
Per una vittoria eccezionale!
Bentornati to another edition of Studio Inter. I'm your host Nima, Tavallaey, welcoming you back to a pod that we recorded we recorded last after the Fiorentina game, but then there were technical issues, and also yours truly was so sick he had a bad case of man flu, so we never got round to publishing that. But we have an extra jam-packed show today, and joining us, we're joined by our good friend, the preview writer for SempreInter.com, Mr. Mohamed Nassar. Welcome.
Hey guys, great to be back.
Good to have you back. And we are also joined by the Inter Legends writer on soon on YouTube and on SempreInter.com, Mr. Critty Smith.
Hey everyone, how you doing?
We're good. And we are also joined by our good friend, media personality from London, Mr. Will Beckman.
Good evening. You've got to stop calling me that, but I'll let it go for another week.
Great. And also making his debut on Studio Inter. He's a journalist and broadcaster in Milan for Sport Mediaset, Daily Mail, UEFA. He also commentates Serie A on Infront Sports. Many of you recognize his voice. Welcome back to welcome to Studio Inter, Mr. Sheridan Bird.
Hello, everyone. Hello, people of Inter.
And hello, commentator of Milan. Right, let's get to it. Inter, after the game against Fiorentina, things were pretty rough, and it got worse. Loss against Cagliari. But now it seems to have the worst kind of storm at Inter seems to have kind of laid down a little bit at least in terms of the Icardi situation. I'm very keen to hear what you think of it, Sheridan. What with Wanda and Inter? Do you think he'll stay at Inter?
I think he will not be at Inter next season, but you're right, it has calmed down a bit. The worst is over. The bloodletting has taken place. It was we've spoken about it before in that Ghost podcast you mentioned, that basically the tough decisions were made by Moratti. That's why Inter hired him, to shake things up and just to let the players know that there was no more mucking around. And it got quite nasty, quite awkward there, January, February, but it's spring now in Milan. And I think just there are signs that Inter are getting back to an even keel, and everyone, I think, is just starting to just be a bit more relaxed. The only problem now for Inter, I think, is just the massive injury list.
Agreed. Will, I'll hand you over to Will.
Hello. Yes, I'm here. I'm actually tempted to ask the same question that I asked a couple of weeks ago, because actually I'm wondering if there might be a different answer. Icardi hasn't played yet. Obviously, we don't know really what's going on. It's a very fluid situation, but there are still some reports that suggest that a solution is a long way away. So, in a hypothetical world where he doesn't play again until the end of the season, maybe he decides to have this operation that keeps being mooted. Can Inter finish in the top four ahead of Roma and Lazio? Because I still don't trust this new narrative that he's going to come back soon. We still feel like there's another negative twist. So if the worst were to happen, is Lautaro and Keita enough?
Well, I think Lautaro showed at the weekend that he really is a good option for Icardi. The knee injury, you're right, we don't know, but he and his wife says that his knee hurts, so we have to believe him. Only he knows what's happening. The pain in his knee. I mean, it is a ridiculous situation, though, that in the sense that if he doesn't play between now and June the 30th, his value will go down, which will hurt Inter. It will hurt him. Real Madrid have got Zidane in, which is the big news for today, or whenever your listeners are listening to. The big news when we are recording this is Zidane. And I have to say, Icardi doesn't strike me as a Zidane-style player. So you could argue that that's one avenue's been blocked off. He's so important to Inter, though. They will need it between now and the end of the season in the battle for a Champions League spot and the Europa League. They will need him. You need your best players, and whatever's been happening, all the shenanigans and silliness, he is a guarantee of goals and goals in big matches. So I hope, for Inter's sake, that they can get him back fit on the pitch, the training ground, and get him in the team, because Lautaro is doing well. But you can't go without a player of Icardi's stature, and when things really do, when the big matches start to come regularly.
Mo, did you have a question for Sheridan?
Yeah, my question is pretty much along the same lines as well of what we asked in that Phantom pod. But assuming that things, all sides reconcile and Icardi's taken back into the fold, is this a player to be trusted? I mean, you talk about him being needed in the big matches, and there are big matches. None arguably bigger than the derby of next weekend. Is this player? I mean, Inter have relied on him for so many years. Will this player still be as dependable for the squad, or do you think that there might be a fracture that is irreparable at this point in time?
There could well be a fracture in the dressing room that we probably won't find out about for years when the players write their biographies. Obviously, Icardi's already done a very exciting biography, but we won't get into that one. But no, the thing is that it's in his interest between now and the end of the season. It's in Icardi's interest to be really good, because if he really does want to leave, and it's just hyperbole that we want to stay in Milan, we love the city. The only way he's going to do that is by playing very, very well and scoring important goals. And the other thing, I don't know if you guys have discussed it, but just very briefly, moving from Icardi to Perisic, a few of my friends here in Milan who cover Inter for the Italian dailies, they've been saying that Perisic now knows that if he's going to get a big move in the summer, which is apparently what he wants, the only way to do that is to be brilliant. It's not to sulk, and it's not to it's not to play in a style that doesn't befit someone who would attract a big club. So, Perisic and Icardi, I think that they will have really strong ends to the season because it's in their interest. And the Inter fans might think, well, that's great if they're only doing that to get the hell out of here. That doesn't really help us. But actually, in a funny way, it does, because it helps all parties.
Yeah. So sorry, I just want to follow up on that. I agree completely. No one is hurt by this by drawing this fiasco out more than Icardi. Inter have fully amortized him. So any sale, 20, 30, 50, whatever million is an absolute profit in plusvalenza terms on the Inter books. So Inter, any price they get for Icardi is a win, because they never really had intended on selling him. So, and Lautaro is demonstrating that he's a capable player that you can build a future on. So you don't really need a star player. The only player that really needs to get his act together, the only party that needs to get their act together in this entire thing is Icardi. But all he's shown us so far is the exact opposite of that, which is what makes me wonder if, in fact, he has understood what Perisic has clearly understood. And that is, if you want to move out in a way that befits your opinion of yourself, you need to perform. And that's really what I keep going round and round again, and not like, this is the one bit of the puzzle that just doesn't make sense to me. Why is Icardi harming himself the most by his own actions?
I get what. Sense. Sure, no, I get completely what you're saying, and I think there was a lot of hurt pride in this whole agenda, him losing the captain's armband. But I do think the penny will drop, and I think that he'll realise once he sort of gets back on the training pitch that, yeah, it's a bit embarrassing. The first game, I don't think he'll get a great reception at San Siro or the Giuseppe Meazza next game he plays at home. I think there might be some controversial songs sung, or he might get some abuse. But I think the penny will drop, and he'll think, actually, I've got to make the best of this. This situation is a disaster. It's really damaged my brand, if you will, and my future potentially. But I think the next time when he gets back to regular training and when he gets back to playing in the team, I think he'll realise for himself that he's got to put it all behind him, swallow his pride, accept that he's not captain anymore, and score loads of goals. So I think he's a professional. He's got his pride. He's also got his ambition. So I think we will see some important goals between now and the end of the season from Icardi.
Critty?
Yes, I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around why Icardi would need to play again this season, because in my mind, all the sporting directors in the world know what he's capable of. So if he doesn't play again, everyone knows that he scores goals. Everyone knows he's a prolific striker. Everyone knows that he is capable of carrying and putting a whole team on his back at any given point in a match, no matter how big the opponent. So really, if he comes back to San Siro and he's rusty, or comes back in the squad and he's rusty, I can only see that hurting him. If I put the logic behind it, I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around this. It might be beneficial to him just to stay on the bench the rest of the season and just let everyone know what they already know about him, because the offers will come in. Inter's going to get offers. I don't think that people are going to reduce the price tag too much on him, because at the end of the day, they all know what a healthy Icardi is worth. So help me understand why he really needs to play again this season, because other than the brand damage, which obviously he's done, and brands can always be repaired, I think that everyone knows, whether it's Real Madrid, Barcelona, it's going to be a big player that ends up ultimately buying him off of Inter. They all know what he's capable of when he's at his best. And I have this weird feeling that come next August, Icardi will be at his best again, just not in Inter color. So why is it that he needs to play again this season?
Well, I think, like I was saying, I think it's pride. I think if Inter do get past the next this current round of the Europa League against Eintracht Frankfurt, there's suddenly a sniff of a big trophy, a trophy that Inter have a very good relationship with, and I'm sure he'd love to be part of that. Perhaps he would have dreamed of lifting it as the captain of the Champions League. But there is the fact that there could be a big trophy at play, which would obviously help his profile a lot. So I think it's pride, and I also think. The other thing worth remembering is that if people from clubs that are potentially interested in Icardi are watching this, they might be thinking, well, he's a bit of a spoilt brat. He's a bit of a baby. He hasn't done his image any favours with this whole charade. So if you are watching this, if there's a potential suitor watching this and they realise that he's got this injury, and if he doesn't appear to be interested in playing football anymore, even though he's scored all those goals that you mentioned and been so effective in all those matches previously, it makes him look like a bit of a big baby. And if you're one of the big cheeses at a very big club in Spain or Germany or the Premier League or whatever, you might think, well, this guy's a bit of a liability. And the other side of that coin, if he gets back down to work, accepts that he's not captain anymore, reintegrates himself, ignores all the problems, all the whispers, all the gossip, and he has an amazing spring, an amazing end to the season, people might think, actually, he has grown up, he is mature, we can count on him. That's just my view, but that's what I think. That's why I think it's in his interest to get back on the pitch and do some amazing things.
I think I'm kind of with you on that, but the only thing I've been thinking about this a lot, like analyzing where we can go, and based on how she behaved yesterday, I just love the fact that now Inter's week is determined not whether or not if they win on Sunday, but whether or not Wanda gets into it with Antonio Cassano at 1 a.m. on Sport Mediaset. But the way she got into it yesterday and the way she spoke yesterday, to me it seems she was humbled. I think she's kind of realized that they played a big game, a high stakes game, which they lost. And I think that a little bit the tail between the legs situation with them. I think that they overplayed their hand a little bit. And I honestly think that there is actually a chance now that he might stay at Inter. And the reason I say that is because of the way she continuously said Icardi wants to stay, Icardi wants to stay, Icardi wants to stay, whilst also saying that we're all Interisti. We watch the game at home. I speak to Marotta more than I speak to Mauro. This kind of family, this vibe I got from her of trying to create these kinds of arguments happen in all families, and it wouldn't surprise me one bit. I think one way that would facilitate him staying at Inter is if he came back in the derby and he scored and won the game for Inter. I think it will all be forgotten. What do you think, Sheridan?
Well, exactly. He's got the best opportunity to come back and try and win his place back in the Inter fans' hearts. I agree with you. What you're saying about Wanda is that she is now pouring it on very thick with the we are Inter and we love Inter stuff. And again, you were right with the other comment that they played their cards and their cards fell off the table. Put it that way. And the other and it all went a bit wrong. So yeah, you're right. They're now pouring it on really thick with the stuff about how they want to stay in the city and their children love it and they're black and blue through and through and that kind of thing. And and the derby would be an excellent occasion for him to come back. And the other thing about football is that fans forgive so quickly if you do something good on a football pitch. People have got away with so much. They've been, we're never gonna support him again. We're gonna boo him. He's dead to us. He's not fit to wear our shirt. And then about 2 weeks later, everyone forgets, and that's the beauty of football, or you can call it hypocrisy. It doesn't really matter. But there are so many players that have been, remember that Chelsea banner a few years ago that was having a pop at Hazard, Fabregas, and I can't remember who the other one was, Diego Costa, for getting Mourinho the sack. Yeah. And then not long after that, they won the league with Antonio Conte, and everyone had more or less forgotten. So football's got a very short memory. So Icardi, it'll be a strange reception he gets when he makes his comeback, particularly at home. And there'll be, his wife will continue to be, insulted on social media and that kind of thing. But if he scores that, if Inter are losing in the derby, don't panic, guys, but it's just a hypothesis. If Inter are losing in the derby and there's 10 minutes left, it's 2-0, Piontek and Paquetá score. Icardi comes on, everyone's a bit, we want to cheer him, but his wife's a bit, she says silly things, blah, blah, blah. And then he scores 3 goals. Everyone's forgotten, and that's the magic of football. The magic or stupidity, you choose the phrase.
Yeah, no, I honestly think that. I think it's kind of, because I've been really, really depressed going into this derby for weeks, because I just the way Piontek is. I mean, Piontek is giving me Shevchenko vibes, and I hated those years with passion, because Shevchenko was a nightmare, and he always scored against Inter, and he's been giving me those vibes, and so have Paquetá, and therefore. That's why when I saw that yesterday, and I'm thinking if he can start training this week, then I think there is an opening. It all depends on him. And as you said, I think that if he were to score 2-3 goals and win it and give one of those magical performances that he's given in the past, I think we can really, really, really start talking about him staying at the club. I really think so.
Absolutely. And sorry to interrupt, but don't forget that what you described about Shevchenko, I felt momentarily sad for you. It made me chuckle, but I felt sad. Milan fans feel about Icardi because he nearly always scores against cousins. So, it'll be a battle of the two men that give the other fans strife. And I agree with what you're saying about Piontek. I've got lots of friends who are Milan fans as well as Inter fans, friends who are Inter fans here in the city, and they are in love with Piontek, just as Inter were with Icardi up until January. So the derby is the place to do it. If Piontek scores the winner, he'll become even more of a hero. And if Icardi does something significant or scores the winner or even scores 2 goals, he'll be all forgiven and it'll be hugs and pats on the back. And Wanda Nara will be on Mediaset smiling and high-fiving everyone.
Jesus Christ. Right. Before we let you go, just quickly, as we did last time, but that disappeared. Your top 6-1, and Capocannoniere.
Okay, I can't remember what I said last time, but I'm gonna shock you.
I think you said Juventus were going to win the league.
I'm gonna shock you again. I think Juventus are gonna win Serie A, team. Second, I think will be Napoli. This is where it gets controversial. I don't want to be abused. I can switch off my computer. I can close my laptop in the blink of an eye. Okay, guys. I think the team that will come third in the Italian first division of professional football wear red and black stripes. Not Foggia. All right, but I think Milan
That's my gag gone.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. And then I think Inter will grab 4th place, and then I think Roma will have a resurgence under old Claudio, and then it's Atalanta Lazio, and I honestly I don't know. I think Lazio will disappoint, so I think Atalanta will come 6th. I think that's all. I think that's the top 6 I've done. But the Champions League places, the 2 Milan clubs, Juventus and Napoli. Top scorer, I think Piontek is already pretty high, so it's not particularly inspiring, I know, but it's between him and Cristiano Ronaldo. No one else is going to sort of get into that group. So I think Piontek doesn't take penalties, I don't think, or free kicks. But then again, Cristiano Ronaldo's free kicks are really bad. So, it's a difficult one. But, yeah, I think Piontek and Ronaldo will be the top scorers.
Nice one. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming on again, and we'll definitely have you on more times if you got time to. And if people want to follow you on Twitter, what's your handle?
My handle, like I said last time, I'm not very exciting on Twitter. I don't go on it very often, but if people really have such little activity in their lives, they're welcome to come. They're welcome to come and follow me. My handle is literally my name. It's at Sheridan Bird. It's a picture of me and Ciccio Graziani is my navatar, I think the young people say. So they're welcome to follow me. I don't really do much on Twitter, and what I do is pretty pointless. But they're welcome. They're welcome to follow me. Thank you. If they do.
Following, folks.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that is the best spot for follow me on Twitter I've ever heard. Don't follow me. I'm shit. I'm boring.
Well, no, I didn't say that I'm shit. I just said that I'm not controversial for various. Let's say for contractual reasons. I can't say half the things I want to say. So, I can't really, I try and put funny stuff on there. Occasionally it hits a target. Other times it's just, I delete it myself after about 7 minutes. But there's no rudeness. And I've got so many friends who work at various football clubs that I can't be too cheeky about football clubs that I used to once give a bit of a light-hearted abuse to. But, I try and have some fun. So, yeah, join us. And get my followers up to 15, because I don't really have that many followers anyway.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Cheers. Sir. My pleasure. Ciao. Bye-bye, guys. Enjoy the derby.
Thank you, Ciao.
Grazie. Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Ciao. Right. Let's briefly talk a little bit about the Spal game, because I was a little bit annoyed, as I think you saw my Mo, and you gave us a little cheeky like. I was furious when they disallowed that Lautaro goal, because I don't think it follows. I don't think it was handball. I really don't. I think it was wrong, and I was really, really annoyed. I've spoken to people, referees, and they say that, well, you can call it both ways. But to me, that was one of those calls that put me a little bit over the edge, because to me it was like, I mean, just walk off the pitch. What's the point? This league, I got that fed up with it. Will, was I as always? Was I exaggerating?
Well, it was annoying, not least because it was a lovely goal.
It was beautiful. I mean,
and he deserved to score it. No, I do think it's the right decision, but I think had I been watching the game live, I would have been annoyed as well. As far as I'm aware, yeah, it's quite marginal, but the replays, I think, showed that there was a touch on his arm. So no, I think it was the right call. But it was frustrating. It was also a little bit frustrating what happened when Politano scored, because I think there were a lot of people that would have pointed out that Calvarese looked almost disappointed when he had to give the goal. But
he looked like he wanted to cry. It was like he looked really, really annoyed.
Maybe he was tired.
Yeah, that's his story, and he's sticking to it.
No, I think if he hadn't used his arm to control it, the ball would have got away from Lautaro. So I think you probably should have to disallow it.
Okay, Mo, have you changed your mind from or like?
Yeah, no. Look, I agree with Will insofar as that. I think that incident alone was probably correctly disallowed on a technicality, but it was more the way they really like went through a fine-tooth comb for the Politano goal to try and find anything,
Exactly.
like it really drove me nuts. It really drove me nuts. But what can you do? It is what it is. This is. I mean, it's these moments that great sides get built. Great Inter sides in particular get built. It's
True.
overcoming these these injustices and these the Fiorentina match and the ridiculous list of ridiculous list of injuries. I think I think I alluded to this in the preview. This was definitely not going to be an easy match, and I think a win here is far more valuable. Is going to be far more valuable than just the 3 points, especially at this point in time. So, and given the performance of Lautaro, I think that the variety in scorers, the fact that your number 9 performed so capably in such a tough match, and we took away the 3 points at home in a trap, in the clear definition of what a trap game is one of the reasons why we go into the derby with a modicum of confidence, and Icardi's camp reluctantly are showing some signs of appeasement now.
Critty, I'm kind of keen to hear, because you're our in-house German football expert. So I mean, the game against Eintracht was really a game of it was a game with two faces. The first half, I thought Inter were surprisingly really good. I will never understand why Marcelo Brozovic takes penalties, but apparently he does, but he shouldn't. And then in the second half, we saw the Eintracht we were expecting. I mean, you got the derby on Sunday. Inter are decimated in the Europa League already, and now the suspensions are raining in like hail. I mean, what can we expect going into the Eintracht game?
Well, the first leg went exactly as Frankfurt wanted it, I believe. To a lot of people, the names Trapp, Hinteregger, Jetro Williams, Danny DaCosta, Ante Rebic, Sebastian Rode, and Luka Jovic and Sebastian Halle might not mean a lot, for Serie A fans, but for Bundesliga followers, they mean a lot. Those are big names in the German league, and Frankfurt sits right now in the top 6. They're in a Europa League place yet again. They are the defending. They're already out of the tournament, but they are, until someone else wins it, they are the defending and reigning German DFB Pokal winners. They beat Bayern like an oil drum in 3-1 in the final last season with Bayern's current coach, Niko Kovac. This is a very talented Frankfurt side, and they can attack. They can. It's what the Germans call I would say it's translated into transition football, but it's Umschaltfußball is what they actually call it, and they can basically flip on a dime and go from a defending position to an attacking position. And Frankfurt is a very good attacking team with a trident of Halle, Jovic, and Rebic up front. And this is a team that I believe played exactly for that 0-0 draw at home. And they basically think the philosophy is you'll see a different Frankfurt come out in the second leg and go at Inter, go for the throat, the jugular. Scoring one goal should probably do the trick, because I would look for Inter to equalize, and 1-1 at home means you go home. You are out of the Europa League if you're an Inter fan, and for Frankfurt, you advance to the quarterfinals. I think this is a very precarious position for Inter to be in. I really think that away goal last week would have done them a wonder of good, and unfortunately, they were unable to get it. This Frankfurt team should not be taken lightly. They are still very much in play for Champions League football in the Bundesliga. That's RB Leipzig, Borussia Mönchengladbach. They are up and down this season. They win some, they lose some, they draw some. Frankfurt has been pretty consistent. So they have taken this competition very seriously. They have not lost a single game in the Europa League this season. They took all 18 points out of 18 in the group stage. And so far, I believe they have 7 wins, 2 draws, and no losses. So Inter are going to have their hands full with this Eintracht Frankfurt team when the second leg comes, and they really need to do everything they can to prevent against an away goal, because I believe one away goal should probably do the trick.
That's pretty much my analysis as well, and especially going into the derby, I want Inter to focus on the derby and the Serie A. I think the Europa League, 1-1 draw and leave that way is I can live with that. I can totally live with that, because I think the focus should be the derby. But what is your take on that, Will?
I was just thinking the same thing, actually. I mean, in general, I hate the idea that we should not take competition seriously, because I think in the long term that's damaging to a team that doesn't have a pre-established winning mentality. You can't choose which games you want to win. It doesn't work. But this is a fairly critical situation, and the best way that I can put it is that I'm actually not that disappointed that Lautaro is suspended for this match with the derby 3 days away.
I agree.
It's awkward, and I do not want to say that I don't want Inter to go through, because I do instinctively, and if Inter don't go through, that the media are going to pile on them in those 3 days before the derby, and then if the derby goes wrong as well, you've got 2 weeks of an international break where everything's going to feel like it's falling down again. So that makes me sort of doubt myself slightly. But Inter can't win this competition. I think if we get through, we'll go out in the next round. You look at the other teams that are going through. I don't think I'd back Inter against any of them. And we are suddenly in a top 4 fight that we didn't expect to be in. So as long as it's not a bad performance and a 3-0 defeat, then a 1-1, I can probably live with that. It's a very difficult one. So we'll just see what happens, and I'll just take the positive, whichever way it is.
Well, speaking of positive, I was going to say, sorry, Mr. Positivity,
no,
come in.
I can't disagree with you guys anymore. I think first of all, I think that the Europa League is if we look at our pre-season ambitions or our early season ambitions and look at the sides that are left in the Europa League, assuming that Arsenal bow out at this stage, then it's a very winnable competition for us. I mean, not very winnable, but it's as likely as us finishing in the top 3. I also think that you don't build legacies by looking to bow out of any competition that you're in. It's embarrassing enough that we had to leave the Coppa Italia, and I also think that for the derby, you don't need any extra motivation. Whatever starting 11 step on the pitch that day, or the other 7 or 8 on the bench, they're not going to need any motivation. They're going to give their all anyway. And after the derby, it's a 2-week international break, so it's perfect time for everyone. Just redline everyone, go, balls to the wall, and try and make this happen. But from what I saw, I don't want to step on your area of expertise, Critty, in your far superior understanding of Bundesliga. But from where I was sitting, Eintracht looked like a very beatable side at home. So I think, if, like, all things considered, and the fact that like you said, Nima, Lautaro, I mean, we have the counterintuitive benefit of having Lautaro already forcibly off the pitch on Thursday. So that means that everyone else can go for it, play, win. There's absolutely no reason not to. And then suddenly you're in the quarterfinals and you're 2 matches away from a European final. So I respectfully disagree. I think we should these coming 2 games with the momentum currently behind the team and things seemingly back on the mend. I think there's no reason at all why we shouldn't go for 2 consecutive wins and 2 probably pivotal moments of the season.
I don't disagree with that. I don't have a fully formed opinion on it. As like I said, I do see the spectre of 2 weeks of media massacre if these games go wrong. But I would reiterate what I said before. Inter cannot win this competition, right? I just can't. I cannot see it, right? Fulvio has been banging this drum on Twitter for weeks. The Europa League is first and foremost about intensity, and we don't have it. And we're not going to have it. If you look at the calendar we've got coming up, there are tough games coming up. We've got a squad that is falling apart a little bit up front. And there are 3 players that we can't even pick in the Europa League because of the FFP restrictions. It's not going to happen, right? As a rule of thumb, I feel bad saying this because I agree. Like as far as the Coppa Italia is, that for me is the most annoying thing that Inter have done this season. And that's the biggest failure that we've done this season, to lose that match. But it's not going to happen, and I don't think start of season objectives are really relevant anymore, because we didn't know that Icardi was going to disappear midway through the season. We didn't know that well, this was going to happen. Things, our circumstances change. So we just got to get over the line in the league and then reset a lot of things in the summer. So
indeed.
But it's a good thing to go ahead. If we go ahead, I'm not going to be sad. But let's be clear. Like,
you're just going to cry, won't you? Cry yourself to sleep.
Yeah.
No. I agree with what you're saying. I look at it that way too. But I agree with Fulvio's, and that's kind of why I asked the question, is because I wanted to hear what you guys thought about it. Because I personally don't think so either. I don't think. I think Napoli, Chelsea, Arsenal, Sevilla, Valencia, these teams are intensity teams. Sure, Inter can and in a normal situation, the Inter that started, that were on that run after the Tottenham game, that Inter can compete for the Champions League. But this is not the same situation. I mean, it's basically been a civil war for the past 8 weeks. You have an injury situation where Brozovic looks exhausted. Miranda got his nose broken and barely had a yellow card, barely got a free kick. I mean, there's so many players that look tired and injured, and the entire mentality, the team looks tired mentally. I don't think Inter have. That's why I think Inter can't win it. That's why I think that it's better to bow out respectfully 1-1 home, because 1-1 at home against a team like Eintracht Frankfurt, that's not a disaster. That's not a shame. But so I agree. I think that I'd rather Inter bowed out and focused on the Serie A just to get the ship into port, and then you have 3 months to reset, and no international tournaments as well.
Yeah, Inter have had 2 sort of dentro fuori matches this season. In or out, PSV and Lazio. They both went wrong. So there's no evidence to suggest that this team has the mentality to win a tournament that is based on, knockout competitions. They beat Benevento, right, and Rapid Vienna, but okay, well done.
God, they were awful, Rapid Vienna.
Yeah,
what
were really
a
bad.
Horrible team that was. Right.
Let me say one more thing.
Go for it.
If Eintracht Frankfurt looked beatable in the first leg, then Inter damn well should have beaten them, because you could very well see an entirely different Frankfurt in the second leg, simply because they take this competition serious. They have not played Champions League football in the history of the competition. Last time that they played in a major European tournament was the European Cup. I think you have to go all the way back to the 60s, I believe, for Frankfurt, if you want to look that one up. I think that's right. They're a Europa League team. They're like the Atalanta of Germany. Like that's the best that they can ever look forward to. So besides, a top 6 finish for them is few and far between. They have the team and they have the horses this year to actually comfortably finish within the top 6, but that's not a typical year for them. The way they typically get into the Europa League is to win the DFB Pokal, which is what they did last season. This is a better team than that, and that team wiped Bayern Munich off the face of the earth. It's fine. Inter can beat them, absolutely. It's not a question of whether Inter has more talent from 1 to 11 on the pitch. The fact is the mindset, the mentality.
Yeah,
Frankfurt
that's what I'm
has
saying.
a better
and I think that's what will
mentality,
make the
stronger
difference.
mindset than Inter, and I don't know if it's wise because I believe wholeheartedly I think we're in agreement on this. I don't think any of us think that they can win the Europa League. Not with Chelsea still in the tournament, not with Arsenal perhaps still in the tournament, depending on what they do against Rennes. I definitely think that there's something about Sevilla in the Europa League. I know Unai Emery is no longer there, but Sevilla just seems to win this tournament at will. And of course, Napoli. I would not this season put money on Inter beating Napoli over 2 legs.
Oh, can you imagine that?
God.
That would be awful, especially after what happened in December.
So,
no.
And also
no.
because domestic derbies in Europe are crap as well, because it kind of defeats the point of European competition. So no.
Right, we have a really important game on Sunday night. It's the Derby della Madonnina, and I kind of, I've already kind of touched on it there with Sheridan when Sheridan was on. I am bricking it. This Piontek is like when the way he celebrates his goals, I have nightmares about that. Like it's just everything about boom. Like when he does that, I just see him scoring 3 goals against Inter and being that Shevchenko type character that haunts and just is a scourge of Inter for the next decade. Like this is the first Milan player in such a long time that I actually fear. I didn't fear the other players. The last time I feared a Milan player was Kaká when he was at his best. Since then, I haven't feared any Milan players. This guy I actually fear. And it's not just him. This Paquetá looks great. Their defense looks solid. And what scares me the most is the fact that Gattuso, I think, will play defensively and go for the counter-attack. Only this time, he has the players to play like that. And I'm afraid that Spalletti is too stubborn and will go right into that trap. I'm scared of this. These are the things I'm scared of. Am I paranoid, or do you guys agree? Will?
Well, the good news, Nima, is that, as always, you know how it works with the derby. The underdog wins. Apparently. Yeah. I don't know if there are any statistics to actually support this, but
nonsense.
Logic.
Nonsense.
Yeah, I agree. No, they're all legitimate concerns. Piontek hasn't played against Inter yet, because you remember that when we played Genoa back in November, they rested him because he played Milan during the week, so he hasn't actually had a chance to get into Skriniar or Brea yet. So it'll be interesting. I find it interesting that in October, this guy, the whole narrative was Icardi versus Higuain, and there's a good chance that neither of them will play this game. It's going to be Lautaro and Piontek, which is a much fresher. He feels like the kind of player who could score a goal. I would perhaps say that, given the run that Icardi's had in the derby, it's about time that Milan had someone who did it the other way around. It's been a while since they won a derby in the league as well. I think it's 2014, the last time they won the derby. So, 2016 with Mancini, obviously, wasn't it? The stars could align. But as I said, I think I'm slightly less pessimistic than I was this time a week ago. I like the fact that we kept 2 clean sheets against Frankfurt and Spal, because we know that, let's not kid ourselves, our strong point is the defence. So if that falls down, then there's going to be a lot of trouble between now and the end of the season. So that does give me hope. It is interesting what you said about Gattuso, because obviously last time when we had this debate with James Horcastle in October, you basically said, Milan are dying because Gattuso will make them play like this in the derby for 10 years, and it will make all the derbies bad matches. But that could be what gets them the win on this occasion. I don't know. It's a toss of a coin. I think I would be happy to get out of there with the draw. So in that sense, I do agree with you. I'm just relieved that this Frankfurt game is at home this week rather than having the away leg this week, because that would have been a real problem. That would have been horrible. That was my only condition with the draw for the last 16, is that we had the second leg at home, because this is a key match for the Champions League. So, I don't necessarily disagree with all of your fears. I maybe don't fear it as much, but it's an interesting game. It's very finely poised, and I would be happy with a draw.
Mo, you're always Mr. Positivity.
Make
me positive. Make me positive.
By the way, do we still have a swearing ban on this podcast, or can we swear again?
No swearing.
Okay. In that case, I see no reason why we can't freaking beat them in this match.
Freaking, I love that.
Yeah.
freaking.
Look, the way I see it, if Gattuso plays on the counter attack, then I think the current form of the Inter attacking module, whatever module you throw in there, whether it's João Mario with Politano and Lautaro, whether it's Perisic with Lautaro and Politano, whatever. It'll be too much for. Of course, this is pending an assessment of Brozovic's condition. So it's all. I feel it's all contingent upon Brozovic's ability to compete at full fitness in this match. But if Brozovic can compete at full fitness in this match, I think it'll be a big mistake for Gattuso again to play on the counter attack and seed the midfield battle for Inter. However, if they decide to try and attack us, we'll see how that works out, because we've said Skriniar and De Vrij haven't been tested. And I think the biggest benefit of the last two matches were 2 clean sheets. But more importantly, against Spal, a clean sheet against Petagna and Paloschi without Skriniar on the field. And we know for a fact, the ref Calvarese would have definitely given Skriniar a yellow card had he been on the pitch, to make sure that he's suspended for the match. So I think with a fully fit backline, I have a feeling that Inter can shut out Milan, regardless of whatever form, whatever tactic or style of play that they enter the pitch on. And regardless, I think we're going to find a way to score. So I hear what you're saying, and I think that I really hate the away derby. I hate watching the Meazza in red and black. I feel like there's something about it that just like the feng shui really upsets me. Of those colors in the stadium. Yeah, I think
it clashes with the seat color, doesn't it? The red and black. Yeah. It's all wrong.
It's not good energy. But
I love this. This is the best. Oh my God! Sorry, go.
But yeah, I think it's either a scoring draw or a cheeky win for Inter, I think.
Yeah, no, I there will be no predictions on this podcast for superstitious reasons. This week,
what if we all predict a defeat? Does that work?
I don't know. There will be no There will be no predictions this week. I'm sorry. I purposely didn't ask about Frankfurt. I purposely not going to ask about the derby, because there will be none. I'm too scared, and I'm like it's like I've become like Jack Nicholson in As Good as It Gets. Like I don't walk near if there's like an edge near a box. Like you don't understand how crazy I am.
You're like Cellino. He's the arch superstition.
Yeah.
With the number 17. Every time you see the number 17 this week, you're just gonna turn the telly off.
This is no. I have not been this scared for this derby in years. And that Piontek guy and the fact that he's a Milan fan as well, and it just annoys me. It just annoys me. I was when they said I wanted us to sign Piontek. That's the thing. I wanted Inter to sign Piontek, and when he went there, I was so annoyed, and I went on this like long tirade in a DM to a friend in Italy, and which he just simply replied, "Yeah, but at some point they were going to be good. It's not like they were always going to buy the Luis Adrianos. They were going to come back. Yeah, exactly. It's like you're just gonna have to, calm down. That
actually reminds me, because I found myself watching an old video from a Sky Italy program about 4 years ago on YouTube this week, and they used to have all these polls that they'd get users to get in, and the question that they'd ask to their viewers in this poll, I think it was the year that Inzaghi was there, who should be Milan's starting centre forward, and the options were Torres, Menez and Pazzini, and I thought we are in a different era. We've come a long way.
Yeah, exactly, and that it's not like that anymore. And I liked it when it was like that. I liked it when they. This is the Milan of the past 5 years has been my all-time favorite Milan. the Mexesses, I really like them like that.
Salvatore Bocchetti, where are you?
Yes, Philippe Mexes, come back. All is forgiven. So no, I'm scared. I really am. And this Paquetá looks like the real deal. Critty, I want to hear your derby thoughts.
Well, I could stay with the sort of not me and keep the positivity up and just go and say, yeah, we're going to win and that be that. Or I could go with my gut, which says we're going to not do so well. And I look at the old saying in football, the trend is your friend. And Inter right now is not trending too well. I know they got a clean sheet as the aforementioned match against Frankfurt and against Spal. But Spal is Spal. They haven't won a Serie A match since January 27th. I take no satisfaction in that win as far as pounding my chest. It's a win. It's 3 points. It's important, but it's like a big bully beating up the weak kid. I'm not going to sit there and gloat about beating Spal. Frankfurt is what Frankfurt is. I think that Inter's lineup on Thursday will be kind of indicative of what way we go on the weekend. I don't want Inter just to lie down and be defeated by Frankfurt without a fight. But at the same time, if it comes down to the two matches, the one I would like more, it's always going to be the derby over some, Europa League match that if we win, how much further do we advance in the tournament? And if we lose, maybe it's a blessing in disguise because then we can focus all of our attention on just getting that top four and returning back to the Champions League. So this is the biggest match of the season for us in terms of Champions League positioning and as far as top four. Milan, every time I look up, they're winning. Every time I've seen them play recently, they win every match that they're in. Even Chievo scores and Milan, turns the game on its head and comes back and wins 2-1. Gattuso seems to finally have the horses in place that lets him play the style that he wanted. I did not really tactically have much respect for him as a manager coming in, but he certainly has changed my opinion on what he's capable of. I mean, it's, a lot of other managers have failed at Milan in the past 5-6 years, and Gattuso's got them in a position finally to realize them getting back in the Champions League, somewhere they haven't been since 2014-15, I believe. I'm really worried about this match because as good as some of the play with Spal, which was Cedric to Lautaro early in the first half, was really impressive. I was glad to see it. Lautaro, whether it's a hand or not, the individual effort given by him on the goal that was taken off the sheet, that was brilliant. We had some play that really impressed me, and but that's Spal versus Milan. You can't really compare the two. And like you said, I think, Nima, you're right. That I think that Gattuso is going to let us come at him. And I think the counterattack is going to be either Milan's downfall or our downfall. It's whoever can either execute it or stop it in terms of what they do. I think that they're going to let us dictate the pace of the match, and then we better be ready for that for when they come down the sides, down the wings, and at our goal, because I think that could be very deadly. As much as I want to say, we're going to win it, these derbies is so hard to predict. And Milan, the one thing that they have not gotten on their resume, yes, they beat us in the Coppa Italia in the past couple of seasons, but they haven't beaten us in the league for quite some time now. It's been 3 years, I believe we said. So this is the one thing missing off Gattuso's resume. I think he'd really like to get a derby win. He's 0 for 2, 0 for 3 now so far. This one is one that he really wants, and him being a former black and red himself, this one would mean double to him. And like you said, Nima, I'm very afraid that Spalletti's going to play right into his trap.
That's what I'm more worried about, more than anything, is Spalletti playing right into this guy's trap. And because the thing is, with Higuain, they were just waves crashing against a brick wall. But Piontek is that missing piece that you can play like that, and he can hurt you, really, really hurt you. I mean, the Atalanta game, the goals he scored there, especially that first one away against Atalanta, when Atalanta were playing Milan off the pitch, and this guy just gets half a chance and makes that ridiculous, insane finish, and the game's over. He just changes the complexion of the game, and that's what this guy gives you, Piontek, and that's what freaks me out.
Well, he makes Milan look like the team that we were at the start of last season.
Exactly.
Quite ugly, but if Icardi gets half a chance, you put it in the box.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, you put it in the net.
Yeah, he puts it in the back of the net. Let's move on to the part of the show where we look back at Inter's glorious history, highlighting a player or a manager worthy of being branded Inter legends, and will be presented by Mr. Critty Smith.
Non è un personaggio che può essere sostituito, perché era un personaggio assolutamente unico. Il fatto che abbia sempre pensato e avuto nel cuore due colori, il nero e l'azzurro.
Well, gentlemen, there are certain players that we name where some of us get a little bit more excited than the others. And it seems like two of the four of us, Will, not you and me, the other two, are very excited.
I'm just moderately enthusiastic. I'm a regular amount of enthusiastic about this.
The old gazes. It's the old gazes time.
Me and Mo went full on girls at a Justin Bieber concert when you said yesterday that we were going to talk about this guy.
Yes, you two did. So his prime years were a little bit before my time. He was retiring around the time that I was. Well, he was not retiring, but it was on his way on the door out of his career, the twilight years. He's unfortunately, a lot of his greatest performances came during a time when the rest of the Inter squad was, sort of mediocre or just kind of on the fringes of the top 3, top 4. He never really got the limelight I don't think he deserved. He was obviously internationally recognized as one of the greatest keepers in the world, recognized as one of the probably the best Italian keeper for many, many years. But unfortunately, as I said, until Giovanni Trapattoni came in the late 80s and formed a squad around him, so in the outfield, not just with him in goal, it was Walter Zenga was largely under the radar for a lot of that period, especially in the 1980s, because we underachieved a lot in that decade. And then when obviously the German trio was brought in, and you had Trapattoni's system in place at that point. Now at 2-3 years, that's when they started doing some trophies. Won UEFA Cup, obviously Scudetto in 1989. So it's amazing. This is another guy that we've talked about. We said it with Pichi, we said it with Facchetti, we said it with Mazzola last week. How long Walter Zenga was at Inter. It goes back to 1971 all the way to 1994 in terms of him being associated with the club as a player, youth player, senior career. That's unheard of. It's that number. When I do the research for these articles, of course everyone's heard of Walter Zenga, but when you look at how long he was associated with the club in that fashion, it is just mind-blowing. And that alone makes him a legend. The fact that he was at the top of his game, no matter what Inter did as a squad. This is an individual award. Being an Inter legend is an individual award that's based on your statistics and what you do at your position. And did you help the team or hurt the team? And my God, did he help this team? He helped them in so many ways. There were seasons where they played 34 matches. He conceded 17 goals, 19 goals. It just unbelievable. And of course, we all know his nickname, Deltaplano, which is hang glider, because of his length and just his ability to stop shots. So I'm going to let the two schoolgirls start first. Nima, with you. Let's talk about Walter Zenga, why you love him so much, and what makes him an Inter legend in your mind.
The thing is, for me, he when I middle to late 80s and that Inter Day record, he wasn't just a goalkeeper. He was it wasn't just his amazing saves, his incredible saves. His spider reflexes. That's why they called him Spider-Man. It was also the fact that he was born and raised in Milan. He was like Paolo Maldini in the sense that he was born in Milan. He was raised in Milan. He grew up standing in the Curva at Inter. He as a youth player at the club. He came up from 1971 to 1994. He was at Inter, barring a few loan spells at Salernitana and Savona and San Benetense when he was really, really young. And how he was such an important. It's so important to have players in a team that that aren't just winners, but they also understand what the club means to the people of that city. And Zenga embodied all of those things. He was a leader on and off the pitch. He was from the city. He loved Inter beyond logic. I mean, still to this day. I mean, when he tweeted out when he was overlooked and Mancini was brought back in. And he tweets out saying that, I've been close to the greatest honor of my life. I probably won't ever get it, but it doesn't matter because I will always love this club. And that's the thing. I mean, when a former panelist of ours, Max DeLuca, me and him were like, if Walter Zenga is appointed to coach this team, I would never, ever in a million years, neither one of us would ever want him to be sacked, even if Inter were relegated under him. Like, that's how much of a hero he is for our generation.
Okay, Mo, it's your turn. Go.
Yeah, you guys have pretty much covered Zenga's career in all its details with Inter. As usual, I like to reflect when these Inter legend stories. I like to reflect on how this stuff impacted me growing up. I used to love standing in goal when I was a 6, 7, 8, 10-year-old playing football back in school, and our the sports store next to where we'd buy our gear, next to my place at home. There was a Diadora poster, and it was Zenga in the silver Italy jersey of with a necklace, and had his mouth open with the gum, and that was my MO in goal. I'd wear an oversized thing, and to get this a necklace and have a big piece of gum in my mouth. It was all out of love for Zenga. He completely captured my imagination. So yeah, I mean, I think that and that Konami game where you could choose only either an arcade game, either Inter Milan or AC Milan, and I picked Inter. My best friend picked Milan. That and Zenga, the fact that Zenga and the Germans were playing in Inter were in fact the reason why I started supporting this club in the late 80s. And so I have nothing but amazing memories of this guy, and I got to meet him here in Dubai when he was coaching some club. I think he still spends a bit of his time here in Dubai, and I bumped into him a couple of times, and it's always just such a joy, and he's always so nice whenever he meets any Interisti. He's super, super friendly and super approachable, and just like you say, Nima, he understands the value of the club, and he's touched by people all the way in Dubai, jumping him and with a camera in his face, and so yeah. I mean, it doesn't for our generation. It doesn't get bigger than
it really doesn't.
than these guys. And like you said, Nima, you said it very well. It's crazy, but we are crazy. We're Pazza Inter, but to say that you support him in relegation is what we crazy Interisti, stand for, and for crazy people like him.
Yeah, no, but it really is. It's like he's so much Inter. He really, for me, he embodies that club. Like growing up, and like you said, all those things. I remember growing up because look, like he was so cool. That Diadora poster, I remember it so well when you were describing it. It's like I can see it in front of me, and it was iconic. It's iconic.
Iconic. It's
just it's love him beyond logic.
So, Will, interesting question for you in regards to Zenga. Since he came a little bit, obviously, before you and I, as far as his prime, do you think that because he never won the World Cup and because he only had the one, Scudetto, the UEFA Cup, and in terms of, like, if you rank him, like, if you look at Italian keepers like Buffon, for example, all the Scudetti, the World Cup in 2006, all the success with Juventus, do you think that maybe it's the team success overshadows what Zenga did as an individual when you compare him to someone like Buffon, obviously who's a legend in and of himself, but do you think that maybe we undervalue what Zenga did just because those Inter squads were not as talented as some of those Juve squads, but Zenga as a whole was extremely top of the table?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I think so. You know, he didn't win the World Cup, so you know and Buffon did, so that's obviously not that's not going to help him when you're evaluating his strength as a keeper. I think quite possibly. I mean, these things are very difficult because it kind of depends who you hang around with as well. Because if you speak to Inter fans, then of course he's not underrated because you've got his fanboys who think that who think that he'd be happy to go down to Serie A with him as manager.
You're lucky Fulvio isn't here because I know he loves him beyond logic as well.
I mean, he could quite possibly go down to Serie A this season. He's become a manager now. He's not having a good time of it at Venezia. But obviously, I can't add to necessarily memories of and sort of anecdotes that show you how much Zenga loved Inter. One thing I would say is that for a year or so, he was the Rise co-commentator for all of Italy's matches. He was there in Euro 2016, and he was fantastic. And he would often mention Inter. He'd bring them up, and
he can't help himself.
Yeah, he can't help himself. Whenever there was someone who was playing for Inter, or I can't remember it off the top of my head, but he would always make it very clear that he's still very much attached to this club. I would like to say that there's one other thing that he did do for Inter. He retired a very long time ago, but he's still helping Inter reach their objectives and grow as a club. Because let's remember, Walter Zenga saved Inter's bacon last May.
Yeah,
right.
He did.
If Lazio had beaten his Crotone side on the penultimate weekend of the season, then Lazio would have been in the Champions League this season. But they didn't. It was a 2-2 draw. So even when Inter's current players couldn't get us over the line, he stepped in.
As always, Zenga saves Inter.
Yeah, as always.
What else is new?
And you brought up an interesting point to close this out about, yes, Inter, obviously there's fanboys that are Zenga fans, there's Juve fanboys that are Buffon fans, but in the eyes of the neutral, if you're talking about someone who follows another league, for example, or someone who just enjoys calcio as a whole and not necessarily you're talking maybe a Parma supporter or somebody like that, just looking in, I feel like that Zenga is underrated because he doesn't have as many trophies as Buffon in the eyes of the neutral beholder, if you will.
Probably, yeah, I agree with that. But he still has the record for the most consecutive for the consecutive minutes in the World Cup not conceding. Only Caniggia, he only conceded 1 goal or 2 goals in that World Cup, 1990. One was in the semi-final equalizer against Argentina, where Caniggia, where he made 1 mistake that World Cup, and it was in that semi-final in Naples against Napoli in Napoli against Argentina, Maradona's Argentina in Maradona's Naples. So no, that was probably what a World Cup final that would have been if that Italy had played West Germany. Jesus, would have been one for the ages.
I do feel like the 1990 World Cup and with Zenga, that's the one that escaped Italy. That's probably one they should have won.
Mm. But they took revenge on Germany in 2006. So what are you going to do?
Yeah, boy, did they. I still haven't forgotten that one. That still hurts.
I bet. Right. Thanks a lot for that, Critty. Now it's time for the part of the show where we pay tribute, rip the piss out of, and make criticize someone or something in the world of football rather heavily, starting with this week's Moratti, which will be presented by Mr. Positivity himself, Mr. Nassar.
He works a lot, he's intelligent, and he surprises people sometimes with his ideas. Not easy to find one person of this qualities.
Hey, so I think oddly enough, this week there's a bunch of stuff that I'd like to pay tribute to. I wanted to, give a nod to Lautaro, his amazing performance against Spal, his really good run of form anyway since Icardi decided to exile himself out of the squad. The kid's been nothing but output and hard work, and he's showing us everything that everything that Icardi isn't. He might not be scoring the goals, but his link-up play is absolutely sensational. His running outside the box, his passing, his running into spaces. you know, and we know he can finish. It's just that for some reason or other, he hasn't been getting these opportunities to find the finish. I also wanted to shout out the Frog for being the Moratti, also part Moratti this week. I think in a run where we've seen, you know, Icardi really be nothing more than you know, a spoiled brat baby throwing his toys out to the pram, and we get reminded of the demeanor and the attitude of our very own Andrea Ranocchia. The guy was abused, humiliated, stripped of his captaincy, shipped away on loan to Sampdoria, shipped away to Watford, I think it was as well. And
Hull,
you know, every time he leaves, Hull. Every time he leaves, the entire Inter Twitterverse celebrates with memes of Mourinho running onto the pitch in the Camp Nou, you know. And yet he steps on, you know. He isn't even selected as a starting defender when we know that Skriniar is on a yellow. So Miranda gets selected ahead of him. Miranda gets injured, and the guy still comes onto the pitch and gives 110%. You know, so his ability is definitely not in question. We know exactly what he's capable of, which is very little defensively or offensively. But his credentials as a bearer of the Inter flags, you know, have to be acknowledged at some point in time. I think this week is as good as any to, you know, pay tribute to a guy that myself, you know, I've always ripped the piss out all the time. So there's that. And then just as we're recording the podcast, I've got the Roma Empoli game on mute in the background. And a strong contender for a Moratti of the week just popped up. Our very own Juan Jesus just managed to put a most incredible own goal. Really, if you guys haven't seen it, you really need to get on.
It really was
internet.
Moving watching him in the derby last week. You could tell that he loved Inter so much. He was desperate to keep us in fourth place.
And he's got Santon, and he's got Santon. We got two moles there. We got David Santon as well.
Yeah. No, but really, if you guys haven't seen, like listeners, if you haven't seen the goal, please go check it out. It is the most incredible own goal. He steps up, it's a cross, and heads it into his goal completely unchallenged in his own box.
I think it's interesting that Mo just described Ranocchia as the Forrest Gump of Inter. Like, we know what he's capable of.
That's
which
brilliant.
Isn't very much.
That is absolutely
he's going to give a lot of effort being really stupid.
It's absolutely fantastic. Right. Let's.
That's enough positivity from this week.
Absolutely fantastic. Right. Let's move on to on that comical note. Let's move on to the Frog himself. This week's Frog, which we presented by Mr. Will Beckman.
È clamoroso! Autogol di Ranocchia!
Yep, this week's Frog is, well, I think it chooses itself because, you know, PSG have done it again. Football's favourite bottlers. Oh, it's nice, isn't it, when we see the rich, the establishment, the aristocracy kind of tumbling down in a well, I can't think of the right metaphor, but you know what I mean.
I mean, they were playing Manchester United. It wasn't like they lost against Scunthorpe United.
Yeah, but
I mean,
Nima,
come on.
Number one, they were at home. Number two, they won the first leg 2-0 and they could have won 3 or 4. Number three, Manchester United had 10 injuries and they had a load of teenagers on the bench who came on and changed the game. Number four, the goals they gave up were so ridiculously stupid that if you played that game again another million times, they would never concede another goal like that. You know. And number five, Neymar's face at the end. It's a new meme.
It is a meme. I've seen a lot of funny stuff on that. Yeah, okay, fair enough. But I mean, at the end of the day, still, I mean, Lukaku is Lukaku. He's only 25 years old, and he's a quality player. And he's a player that, if we're talking about replacing, because there's talk of Duvan Zapata, I'd rather have Mr. Lukaku. It'll never happen, but I'd rather. I really think that guy. I think he's a good player. and he's 25. What's that? That's no age.
I think that the Zapata rumours are just a sort of a dictionary definition of recency bias. He's 27. He's never hit double figures before this season, and now because he's playing well for Gasperini, he's the ideal replacement for Icardi. I just despair. I would.
Right. Let's move on to the negative part of this show, the Moggi of the week, which I'll be presenting myself. It's not just this week. It's been going on for the past 13 years now. Juventus, as everyone knows, were sent to Serie B. Well, actually, they were first sent to Serie C for match fixing under Luciano Moggi, and since then, they claim that they have changed, and if they've claimed everything under the sun, really. But basically, Juventus say that they're not the club that they were under Moggi, and they've distanced themselves from Moggi for 5 minutes, because since then Luciano Moggi is one of the people who Andrea Agnelli makes sure to kiss and hug every time the Juventus play at home, pretty much, and he's always there. And they are now, for the umpteenth time, I think they've appealed the decision to give Inter that for Inter to have that Scudetto revoked from 2006. I think to every single court except for maybe family court, but other than that, they've been to every single appeals instant, and now they're doing it once again, and they're looking like they're going to get turned down again. And it's just, it's kind of hard to take your club seriously that you've changed and you're not the same when you've got the guy who did what he did, you're kissing and hugging him at the stadium, and you're trying to appeal to get something back that was never yours, which you stole. So for me, the Agnellis and the Andrea Agnelli and Luciano Moggi and that whole club is the Moggi of the week. Right, that's all we have time for this week. I'd like to thank Sheridan Bird for coming on. I'd like to thank you, Will.
Thank you very much. Happy Derby week, everyone, and spare a thought for Nima while you're watching on Sunday evening, because he'll be behind the sofa with his hands in his head.
I'd also like to thank Mr. Mo Nassar.
Hey.
And
that was the most low energy cheer I think I've heard in a long time.
Yeah,
it's been over an hour, this podcast.
There wasn't much conviction in that.
Yeah, I did. I hope I'm going to listen to Mo's. I'm going to listen to this podcast for like every day until the Derby and try to suck in all the energy that way as well, because I'm scared. And also, thank you very much, Mr. Critty Smith.
Thank you, Nima. It's a pleasure as always.
Pleasure. And until next week, my name is Nima Tavallaey, wishing you all Europa League qualification and a happy Derby weekend. 3 points. And until next time, sempre e solo Forza Inter.